When I was 9 years old, I discovered a hidden room in my uncle's house. What I found inside should have made headlines. But instead, my parents buried it. And for 15 years, I convinced myself I must have imagined it. Until the day the news broke, and everything I thought I knew about my family unraveled. It was one of those long, sticky summer Saturdays in Charleston, South Carolina, where the adults drank sangria on the patio, and the kids disappeared into the house unsupervised for hours. My cousins and I were playing hide-and-seek inside Uncle Ray's giant old colonial home, the kind of place with way too many doors and not enough light. I was always good at hiding, better than the others. So when I crept up the second floor and spotted the narrow hallway that branched off to the side, one that no one ever used, I knew it was my golden ticket. At the very end of it was a linen closet with a loose brass handle. I slipped inside, careful not to make the hinges squeak, and crouched down behind a line of old winter coats. Then I felt it, cold air, damp and still. It wasn't coming from the door I'd entered. It was seeping from behind me. There was another door inside the closet. I turned slowly, my breath fogging in the sudden drop of temperature, and reached out. The door was almost invisible, camouflaged into the back wall. I pulled it open. Inside was a room no one should have had in their house. It was maybe 10 feet wide, no windows, no carpeting. Just concrete floor, metal shelves lined with binders, and a folding table against the far wall with a scuffed-up laptop looping silent videos. At first, I thought it was home movies. Birthday parties, maybe. But the more I looked, the more my stomach turned. The videos showed children, young, confused, in places that didn't look like homes. Then I saw the binder. It was thick, black, the kind you'd find in an old office. And on the spine, written in shaky gold ink, was my name, Tessa Langley. I don't remember grabbing it, only the way my hands shook as I flipped it open. Page after page of photographs, of me, sleeping, changing, playing on the swing set behind our old duplex. Some were grainy, taken through a window. Others were sharp, like from a hidden camera. Each photo had notes beside it. Dates, times, locations. I dropped the binder. I don't remember leaving the room. I don't remember slipping back into the hallway or rejoining the others. I only remember sitting in the back seat on the way home, my fingers curled so tightly around my seatbelt my knuckles turned white. That night, I told my parents everything. I sat on the edge of their bed and recounted every horrible detail. The cold room, the laptop, the binder, the pictures of me. They didn't say anything for a long time. Then my mom, Elizabeth, said I probably had a nightmare. That I'd been sneaking around and let my imagination get carried away. My dad, Richard, just stared at the floor. When he finally spoke, he said what I described could ruin the family if I told anyone. Ruin the family. That was the phrase that stuck. Not, we believe you. Not, we'll call the police. Just, ruin. They told me never to speak of it again. And for years, I didn't. I never played hide and seek again. Never went near that hallway. I started locking my bedroom door every night. Slept with a nightlight. And eventually, the memory warped. Became hazy. Maybe I had imagined it. But when I was 25, everything came back. It was a Tuesday morning when I saw it on the news. Local man, Raymond Langley, arrested for attempting to lure a young girl into his car near Hillside Elementary. What made me freeze wasn't just the arrest. It was the surveillance photo of the girl. She looked exactly like I did when I was 9. Same haircut, same pink jacket, same knockoff Converse with blue stars. And suddenly, I was back in that room, back in the cold air, the black binder in my lap. The images seared into my brain. Only this time, I wasn't a terrified little girl. I was an adult, and I remembered everything. So I called my parents. Mom said it was a horrible misunderstanding and that I was digging up things better left alone. My dad warned me not to go poking around again. That was the moment I knew. They hadn't just believed me back then, they'd known. They had always known. And they did nothing. For days after Uncle Ray's face hit the evening news, I couldn't sleep. It wasn't just the arrest, it was her. The girl he tried to lure. She looked exactly like me when I was 8. Same uneven haircut. Same pink hoodie with daisies on the sleeves. Same light-up sneakers. He had a type. I was the blueprint. 2 days after the broadcast, I got a call from the district attorney's office in St. Cloud. The woman introduced herself as Jacqueline Wilson, lead prosecutor. She asked me if I was related to Raymond Elias, my uncle. Then she said they'd uncovered something during a preliminary search of his house. A binder, she said, with your name on the spine. I nearly dropped the phone. I asked if there were others. She hesitated. No, just yours. My mouth went dry. That couldn't be right. The room I found as a kid had been filled, shelves lined with black binders. A laptop looping videos. Bins of camcorders. I remembered it all like it had been burned into my brain. I asked her if they'd searched the second floor. The back closet at the end of the hallway. The one with the loose handle. Her tone shifted. What closet? I gave her everything I remembered, down to the dip in the beige carpet, the trick hinge on the back panel, even the way it smelled in there. Like mildew and something more rotten. She thanked me, said they'd send someone back that afternoon. A week later, Jacqueline called again. Her voice was quiet. You were right, she said. We found the room. It was exactly as I remembered. Still intact. Still hidden. A laptop with encrypted drives. Over 30 binders, each labeled with a different child's name. Some matched long-standing missing children's cases from as far back as 2004. A few of the victims had never been found, until now. There were maps, journals, burial sites logged in chilling detail, and not one word from my parents. My dad stopped answering my calls. My mom finally texted, "You don't know the damage you're doing." That same week, I went by their place to drop off a manila envelope of forwarded mail. Dad wasn't home, but his study door was cracked open. He never let anyone in there growing up. Not even my mom. I don't know what pushed me to go in, but I did. The carpet was recently vacuumed. His desk spotless. Too spotless. I scanned the bookshelves. Mostly legal codes. A framed Notre Dame diploma. And in the bottom drawer of his filing cabinet, a binder. One. Just like the ones in Uncle Ray's secret room. Black. Slim. Gold lettering. But the name on the spine wasn't mine. Mariah Yates. I opened it. Page 1. A photo of a young girl. 8, maybe 9, playing on a swing set. Her braids flared in midair. There was joy in her face. Innocence. The picture looked like it had been taken from a distance, through a telephoto lens. I snapped the binder shut. My father had one of these. I heard the front door click. I shoved the binder back into the drawer, my pulse hammering in my ears. I shut the study door and made it into the hallway just as my dad stepped inside, hanging his keys by the coat rack. I dropped off some mail. I mumbled, holding up the envelope like a shield. He nodded. Didn't ask questions. Didn't even look suspicious. I walked to my car like a zombie. My hands were shaking so badly, I nearly dropped the keys. I sat in the driveway, staring at the dashboard for 15 minutes, my mind spinning. What was I supposed to do now? This wasn't just about Uncle Ray anymore. My dad, my own father, was involved. Maybe not just complicit. Maybe worse. I finally managed to drive home. Nearly missed my exit. When I got to my apartment, I locked the door and pulled the blinds. Sat in the dark until morning. Then I called Jacqueline Wilson. I found a binder in my dad's study, I told her. Same kind as the others. A different name. A girl. She paused, then asked, "Would you be willing to help us gather more evidence?" I didn't even hesitate. Yes. Because this wasn't about guilt anymore. It was about stopping them. The plan was simple, they said. Like hell it was. I met Jacqueline and Detective Stephen Matthews at a quiet corner cafe on Grand Avenue. It smelled like cinnamon and bleach. They picked it for the privacy. Matthews was in his mid-30s, calm but tired looking, like he'd spent years watching humanity rot from the inside out. He slid a USB-sized recording device across the table to me. "We need a confession," he said. "Something concrete from your father." The plastic felt warm in my palm. My hands were shaking so bad, I nearly dropped it. "You think he'll just admit it? To me?" Matthews leaned in, his voice barely above a whisper. "Sometimes these guys need to be understood. They justify themselves. Especially to family." I wanted to scream. I'd spent 16 years burying what he made me keep secret. He wouldn't even look me in the eye when I was a kid. But I nodded. Not for him. For the other kids. The ones who didn't get out. We set the meeting at Hartley's Diner, an old spot off Route 12. We used to go there after church when I was little. I remember the syrup always tasted burnt, and the waitress would draw smiley faces on my pancake with whipped cream. I arrived first and chose the back booth. Started the recording. Slipped the wire into my jacket pocket. My heart was slamming against my ribs like it wanted out. Dad walked in wearing a gray windbreaker and the same disgusted expression he wore when the car broke down. No smile. No hug. We ordered food, neither of us hungry. I picked at my fries, then said it flat out. I found the binder in your drawer. He didn't flinch, didn't deny it, just stirred his coffee, clink, clink, clink. You shouldn't have been in my study, he muttered. That was it. Not what binder. Not you misunderstood. Just annoyance that I'd seen something he'd hidden. I swallowed bile. How long have you been involved with Uncle Ray? He paused. It started when we were kids. He was 4 years older. He showed me things. Tricks. Cameras. How to hide. I was his first. He looked at me then. He changed me. I couldn't breathe. But you kept going, I said. You let him come into our house. You let him take pictures of me. He closed his eyes. I thought I was protecting you. I made sure he was never alone with you. I tried to. You let him, I snapped. You let him take pictures through my window. You knew what he was. And you let him near me. I didn't know about the black book, he whispered. Not until you told us. I went to confront him afterward. He threatened to expose me. The truth snapped into place. He hadn't kept silent to protect me. He'd kept silent to protect himself. What about the girl in your binder? I asked. He looked down. Silence. I pushed my plate away and stood up. I can't do this. He didn't stop me. I drove straight to the precinct and handed Matthews the recorder. He and Jacqueline listened to it together while I sat numbly on the other side of the glass. When it ended, she placed her hand gently on my arm. It's enough to get a warrant, she said. We'll search the house. That night, I barely slept. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, haunted by a memory I hadn't thought of in years. It was my 9th birthday. The backyard was full of kids. My mom brought out the cake. Balloons rustled in the trees. I was blowing out candles when I caught Uncle Ray watching me from the porch. Arms crossed, face slack, not smiling. Just watching. That same summer, I had a rash across my neck and shoulders. My parents said it was a heat rash. Maybe poison ivy. But I remembered waking up one night, my bedroom light still on, the curtain moving slightly, and thinking I saw someone step out of view. At the time, I convinced myself it was a dream. Now I knew better. I didn't return to work. Couldn't. My mind was cracked wide open, spilling memories I wasn't ready to face. Days bled into nights as I sat in the dark, blinds drawn, chewing ice from old mugs and jumping at every phone buzz like it was a gunshot. When Jacqueline called, her voice was clipped, emotion coiled tight behind her professionalism. We found it, she said, just like you described. The closet, the panel, the room behind it. It was real. My pulse thundered in my ears. There were binders, videos, maps, names. Some matched cold cases. Some matched children who've been missing for decades. And then she said it. My name was on one of those binders. It had been moved into Ray's bedroom drawer. It looked used. Flipped through often. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, silent, staring at nothing as everything inside me shriveled up. But Jacqueline wasn't done. There was a partial fingerprint, she said, on one of the binders. We ran it. It matches your father. Everything in me went cold. The next day, I returned to my parents' house to drop off a misdelivered package. My dad wasn't home. His study door, always locked, was ajar. I shouldn't have gone in, but I did. I opened the bottom drawer. Another binder. Same format. Same layout. But this one had a different name. Inside, a girl in a pink hoodie, no older than 9. On a swing set. Laughing. Oblivious. I nearly dropped it. My hands were trembling so violently, I thought I might throw up right there on the carpet. I shoved it back and bolted out just as my dad walked through the front door. I was dropping off mail, I mumbled. My voice cracked. He looked at me with a flicker of suspicion, but said nothing. That night, I called Jacqueline. He's involved, I said. My dad. There's another binder in his study. I saw it. She didn't say anything for a moment. Then, we need more. Something stronger. Will you help us again? I didn't think. I just nodded. Yes. They brought me to the station again. Detective Matthews looked worse than last time. His eyes red, his jaw clenched tight. We need something actionable, he said. More than what we've got. We need something that proves he didn't just know. It has to show he participated. And then it hit me. The cabin, I said. Near Lincoln Falls. Grandpa used to own it. Ray mentioned it when I was a kid. Said it was his getaway spot. Matthew's eyes lit up. Can you find it? No, I admitted. But my dad can. They arranged a monitored visit. I sat across from my father in a cement-walled room under flickering fluorescent lights. He looked like a ghost of the man I once knew. Thinner, paler, eyes hollow. "I'm pleading guilty," he said the moment I walked in. "To everything. No deals." I said nothing. "I'm going to tell them about Ray. About the cabin. And the other one, near the state line. There's more there. Records. Videos. You deserve the truth." "Why now?" I asked. "Why not when I was 8? He looked away. "Because I saw your face when they cuffed me. And I couldn't pretend anymore." He gave them everything. Directions. Coordinates. Even described a fake rock where the key was hidden. 2 days later, Jacqueline called. They'd found the Lincoln Falls cabin. Inside, 6 bodies. All matched to children reported missing between 2007 and 2019. There were video logs. Diaries. Ray had written about everything. Every detail. Every act. And he mentioned an accomplice, his apprentice. My father. He hadn't just known. He'd helped. I didn't make it to the bathroom. I collapsed just outside the door, retching until my ribs ached. Then I laid on the cold tile for hours, staring at the ceiling like it held the answer to how I could ever live with this. My father hadn't just failed to protect me. He had been part of it. Not just complicit. Active. And somewhere in those pages were more names. More victims. Children whose families had been waiting years for answers. Some who would never get them. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on my living room floor, phone in my lap, staring at the screen. It buzzed with messages I didn't want to read. Reporters, relatives, even old friends. I didn't respond to any of them. I only called one number. Detective Matthews. My dad mentioned another cabin. I told him. Near the state line. Registered under a different name. He promised to follow up immediately. By the next evening, Jacqueline confirmed it. The second cabin was real. They found it. And inside were more binders. More videos. More lives cataloged like trophies. This wasn't just a secret. It was a legacy. Built by 2 brothers. Carried out in silence. And now, finally, dragged into the light. I didn't sleep the night before the hearing. My mind was a carousel of every sickening detail, every photo, every lie, every silence. Around 3 a.m., I finally did something I should have done years ago. I emailed a therapist. One line. I need help. It felt small, like tossing a match into a thunderstorm. But even small things burn. The courthouse was swarming. Cameras, reporters, strangers staring like I was some tragic movie character. Jacqueline met me at the front steps. No makeup, just steel in her eyes. "You don't have to speak," she said quietly. "Your father's plea includes full confession. No deals. No conditions." But I wasn't there for justice. Not just that. I needed to look the man in the eye who helped destroy my childhood, and still dared to call himself my dad. Inside, the courtroom was packed. Jake sat with his mom, near the front. My mother was on the opposite side, alone, clinging to her purse like it was a lifeline. Then they brought Ray in. Even shackled, he smirked like he knew something we didn't. His hair was greasy, his eyes still sharp. Watching. Then came my dad. He looked like a ghost. Thin. Sunken. Like guilt had devoured him from the inside out. He didn't look at me. Not yet. When the judge called for statements, my dad stood. No notes. Just trembling hands and a quiet voice. "I'm pleading guilty to every count," he said. "Not for a lesser sentence, but because it's the truth." He admitted everything. How it started, how he enabled Ray, how he told himself lies about protecting me. "I failed as a father," he said, "and I will never ask for forgiveness. But I will spend every day left to me trying to make amends." Only then did he look at me. Our eyes locked. For a second, I saw someone else. The man who used to teach me how to ride a bike. Who carried me in from the car when I pretended to sleep. That man died the day I found that binder. The judge nodded. No bail. Full investigation before sentencing. Outside, Jacqueline touched my arm gently. He gave them new locations. More evidence. More names. "How many more?" I asked. "We don't know yet," she said. "But it's growing. A lot." 2 days later, Detective Matthews called me. They found journals at the second cabin. Video logs. Records dating back 30 years. Some of the children weren't even in missing persons databases. No one had ever looked for them. "There's more," he said quietly. "Your dad gave us additional names and locations. He's still cooperating. And he asked if you'd visit." I wanted to say no, but I didn't. The next day, I sat across from him again, same interrogation room. His wrists were cuffed to the table. "Thank you for coming," he said. "I'm not here for you," I told him. "I want the truth." And so he gave it. All of it. He never touched me, he said. Swore on his life. But he let Ray photograph me. Because Ray had something on him. Proof of past victims. Blackmail. I thought if I kept him close, I could keep you safe, he said. You failed. I know. He admitted to 3 victims he directly abused. Others he helped Ray watch or photograph. When I asked about the girl in the binder I found, he said she was alive. That he only watched. Like that made it better. I stood up. Done. But before I left, I asked, did Mom know? He shook his head. She suspected Ray. Not me. I never told her. Outside, Matthews caught up to me. Your dad just gave us locations for 2 more hidden sites. More victims. Maybe more survivors. I leaned against the wall. Exhausted. Will this ever end? I asked. We'll find them, he said. Thanks to you. No, I said bitterly. Thanks to a man trying to save his own skin. A few days later, my mom came to my apartment. Her face gaunt. Shoulders caved in. I filed for divorce, she said. I didn't know. Not about him. Not the kids. But you knew something, I said. I was afraid. Of losing you. Of losing everything. I didn't let her in. Just nodded once. She left a folder on the table. Proof of her divorce. Maybe a peace offering. Maybe an apology. At the next hearing, I testified. I told the court about the closet. The black book. The photos. The silence that followed. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I told the truth. Ray was sentenced to life without parole. My dad got 45 years. Not enough. But more than I expected. Jake and I met for coffee a month later. We talked about nothing and everything. Bad sitcoms. Childhood movies. The best pie shop in the city. He said he was thinking about therapy. I told him I already started. I still double lock my door. I still flinch when someone says my name too softly. But I wake up now without fear in my throat. I breathe now without guilt in my chest. The truth is out. They're behind bars. And I'm still here. Still healing. Still standing. It's not over. It never really will be. But I survived. And for today, that's enough.